My mother once told me, in front of everyone, that I was too quiet and plain to matter. Yesterday, she waited in line for almost an hour at my book signing, nervously clutching my latest novel. When she reached me, I just nodded and signed her copy like any other fan. Would you have handed your sister that pen, knowing what she did? Or would you have let her face the mess she made herself? I still wonder if I made it too easy. My name is Lauren. I'm 34. I work as a research scientist for a university, mostly focusing on cognitive linguistics. People expect that to mean I'm good with words, or at least comfortable with them. That isn't true. I'm better with data, code, and outlines. When I speak, I keep it short. Most of my life, that's been used against me. I grew up in a small town, about 3 hours from Chicago. The kind of place where everyone knows the good and the bad about you, or thinks they do. My mother was always the loudest person in the room. At family dinners, she'd tell stories, laugh at her own jokes, make everyone notice her. If I tried to join in, she'd cut me off. She called me the mouse, always quiet, always in the background. She said it was a joke, but she'd say it in front of everyone. Cousins, neighbors, teachers. It was a nickname that stuck well into high school. Sometimes I'd hear it in the hallway and not know who said it first, my mother or the other kids. I got used to staying silent. My grades were good enough that the school let me skip a grade. That made things worse at home. My mother said I was book smart, not life smart. My father didn't say much at all. I learned early that if I wanted respect, I'd have to earn it somewhere else. Yesterday, I walked into the conference hall in Chicago, badge around my neck, laptop under my arm. I was supposed to present new research, something that might actually matter. Everyone around me seemed at ease, making small talk, laughing. I stood near the coffee table, listening to people chat about flights and funding. My mother's voice echoed in my head, sharp, dismissive, always expecting me to fade into the background. I'm not sure when I started to believe her. That day, I thought I'd left all that behind me. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from my sister. That's when things started to unravel. And when I look back, I can see how the smallest things never really stayed small. The lights from the stage were sharp, making it hard to see the audience all at once. I heard my name over the speakers, drawn out by the host's practiced voice. People clapped, not wild but steady, filling the big room. I stepped forward, hands pressed to the sides of my skirt, trying to keep them from shaking. The podium was higher than I expected. I glanced up, out at the rows of seats. She caught my eye before I even wanted to look. My mother stood near the exit sign, behind the last row. She wore the same beige jacket she'd worn every Easter since I was a teenager. Her purse was clutched under one arm, like she might need to run. She didn't clap. I caught her mouth, the way it pinched at the edges. She looked at me like she was bracing for something embarrassing. I started my talk. I heard my own voice echo back from the speakers, words I'd practiced for weeks. I talked about the book, about why I wrote it, about the year I spent researching and the things I learned. I could see people nodding, some making notes. My hands didn't shake until I tried to turn a page. At the end, people clapped again. A few stood, but not many. The host thanked me, handed me a water bottle, and pointed me toward the signing table. I smiled, or tried to. In the corner of my eye, my mother was still planted by the door. She didn't move. The signing table was covered in blue cloth. A stack of my books to one side, pens in a cup. The event manager put a sticky note in front of me with my name, in case anyone forgot. They started lining up, people with tote bags and conference passes, some with the book already open to the title page. Some had read it already, some just wanted a signed copy to say they were there. I signed the first 3 with my usual note. Thanks for coming. The fourth woman asked if I would pose for a photo. I smiled, said yes, tried not to look at the back of the room. I could see my mother shifting her weight, glancing at the floor. She wasn't talking to anyone. She looked like she might leave. An older man handed me his program to sign. He said something about a chapter that reminded him of his own mother. I smiled and nodded, not sure what to say. The line kept moving. A younger woman leaned in, whispered she wished her mother had come to the talk. I wrote her name carefully, underlining it. Then I saw her again, closer. My mother had joined the end of the line. She was behind a man in a green sweater, staring at the books like she was reading the blurbs. Her hair was tucked behind her ears, gray at the roots. She didn't look up. People kept coming, asking if I could sign to their daughter, their friend, their book club. I kept moving the pen, kept saying thank you. My hand cramped a little. Every time I looked up, I saw my mother inching closer, always 2 or 3 people behind the next. She held her purse in both hands now, pressed tight to her stomach. When she finally reached the front, she didn't say my name. She didn't say anything. She pushed the book across the table, not meeting my eyes. I tried to find something to say, something that wouldn't sound forced in front of all these strangers. She waited, silent, her face flat. I wrote her name on the first page, my handwriting smaller than usual. My pen slipped a little, leaving a smudge under her name. I closed the book and handed it back. She took it with both hands, fingers curled tight around the cover. She stepped aside, not looking up, and disappeared into the crowd. The next person in line waited, shifting from foot to foot, and I picked up the next book. The applause from earlier still echoed in my head, but it was already fading. By the time I made it to the end of the line, the room felt hotter than when I'd started. The bookstore lights were too bright, flattening everyone's faces. My mother stood near the register, shifting her bag from one arm to the other. She wore her usual beige cardigan, buttoned halfway, with her hair pulled back so tightly you could see the pale skin at her temples. She didn't look at me until I spoke. "Did you want your copy signed, Mom?" She jerked her head up. For a second, she blinked, like she'd been somewhere else. "If you have time," she said. Her eyes flickered to the woman next to her, a little younger, bright lipstick, expensive coat. The woman was holding a copy of my book, too, tucked under her arm like a magazine. "For you, always," I said. My voice sounded normal to me. I took the copy from her, uncapped the pen, started to write her name. My hand didn't shake. She kept her hands pressed together, knuckles pale. The woman behind her leaned in. "Is this your mother?" My mother's mouth tightened. She didn't answer right away. The woman tried again, louder, as if my mother might be hard of hearing. "She's your daughter, right? I saw the name. This is your daughter's book." My mother looked at the table. "Just someone from home," she said, so softly I barely caught it. "Not family. Not mother. Just someone." The woman seemed confused, glanced from her to me and back. She started to smile, then stopped. I finished signing. "Here you go," I said, sliding the book across the table. She took it with both hands. "Thank you," she said. She sounded tired. She didn't look at me. She moved aside, so the woman behind her could step forward. The woman smiled at me, bright and wide. "I've heard so much about you," she said. "Your mother, well, she's mentioned you. In passing." I smiled back, the way you're supposed to. I signed her book. She leaned in, stage whisper. "She's so proud, you know. Just doesn't say it out loud." I nodded, capped the pen, handed the book back. My mother stood near the exit, flipping through the first pages. She didn't read a word. The woman joined her, said something low. My mother shook her head. The line behind them moved forward. The next person slid their book across the table, and I wrote my name again and again. I didn't look up. My mother's perfume, light, sharp, lingered for a while after she walked away. After the signing, I found her in the parking lot. She was alone, staring at her phone. I waited a moment, then called her name. She started, then put the phone away, as if she'd been caught doing something private. "Did you want to get coffee?" I said. I kept my tone even. She shook her head. "I have to get home," she said. "Early morning tomorrow." I nodded. She walked ahead of me, keys jangling. She didn't glance back. I unlocked my car, sat inside for a minute before starting the engine. The signed copy she'd left on the passenger seat stared up at me, wrapped in the receipt. I drove home in silence, radio off, hands tight on the wheel. In the rearview, I watched the bookstore lights fade. My phone buzzed once. Unknown number, no message. I didn't answer. I kept driving. I set the box of books on the dining table and pull out the first copy. The dust jacket is stiff, still glossy. My mother has already stacked her own pile next to the centerpiece, arranged like a store display. She hovers behind me, hands folded. I open the front cover, expecting the blank page I left for signing. Instead, I see my name in blue ink, curling across the paper. It's not my handwriting. It's my mother. S, the same rounded letters she used on permission slips and holiday cards when I was a kid. I stare at it. The pen tip pressed hard, so the lines are thick and uneven. The A loops are closed, like she always does. I flip to the next book, and the next, each one signed with love, Anna, in that same blue pen, as if I'd sat here by this table and written them myself. "Why did you sign these?" She tries to smile. "There was no time," she says. "The women's group wanted them early, so she helped." "No one will know," she says. "It's just for friends." I look at her. My face feels stiff. I don't say anything, just turn another page. On the title page, she's written out a dedication. "To my mother, who always believed in me." The words are careful, but the page itself is creased at the corner, like someone folded it back and forth while waiting for glue to dry. I hold up the book. "You wrote this." She shrugs, not meeting my eyes. She says she thought it would make people feel good. That it would be a nice touch. She says she thought I'd be too busy, that she was just trying to help. Her voice gets higher, a little sharp, but softens at the end. I watch the way her hands move, smoothing the tablecloth, then gripping the edge. She's fidgeting, waiting for me to say it's fine, that it doesn't matter. I don't say anything. I open another book. The same forged signature, the same blue ink, the same inscription. She says, "I wanted people to see how proud I am." I don't respond. I look at the inscription again. The words are a lie. She's been telling people for weeks how she's always supported me, how she's my biggest fan. I remember the years she wouldn't read my stories, when she told me I should get a real job, when she said writing was a hobby, not a career. The phone rings in the other room. She glances toward the sound, but doesn't. I set the book down, the cover snapping shut. She says it's not a big deal. She'll tell anyone who asks that I signed them. She waves her hand, as if brushing away a speck of dust. I ask her if anyone else has seen these yet. She says yes, the church group, her friends from book club, the neighbors. She says they were so impressed. She says they all think I'm so grateful for her support. She wants me to thank her. She wants me to pretend, too. I stand there, looking at the stack of books. The blue ink. My mother's handwriting, everywhere. I say I need some air. I leave the room. I hear her sigh as I walk out, the sound small and tight. I know she'll start making calls soon, explaining, rewriting the story, whatever she needs to do to keep the picture straight. I go out into the cold air and stand on the porch. The neighborhood is quiet. My hands are shaking, but I keep them in my pockets. I think about all the people who'll open those books, see my name, and believe the inscription. I think about how easy it was for her to take my words. Inside, I hear her moving the books again, straightening the pile. She's humming, low and tuneless. I wait until I can't hear her anymore. The air outside, the bookstore felt heavier than inside. I could still hear the tail end of laughter and the scraping of chairs as people started to leave. My mother was behind me, shoes tapping quickly, then slowing as she caught up. There was a row of pots with dying pansies along the sidewalk. I stopped and stood beside one, not turning around. She stopped too. For a moment, neither of us said anything. She adjusted her purse strap, clearing her throat once, then again, louder. I kept looking at the street. Cars passed. Somewhere nearby, someone was dragging a trash can over the curb. She spoke first. I thought you'd be too busy for family. Her words landed flat. I took the book out of my bag, the one she'd left on the signing table, the one she'd signed herself. I held it out to her. She reached for it but hesitated, glancing at my face, then quickly away. Her hand shook a little as she took the book. The cover bent under her grip. She fumbled with her purse, pressing the bag open with her elbow. Her hands were too quick, too practiced, like she'd done this before. She slid the book inside and snapped the flap closed. Her eyes darted up, then down. Her cheeks had gone red, like she'd been running. I waited. She didn't say thank you. She didn't apologize. Why fake my signature? My voice was quieter than I meant. She flinched. Her lips pressed together, so tight the lines around her mouth deepened. For a second, her eyes flicked sideways, like she was checking if anyone else could hear. People ask questions, she whispered. That was it. No explanation. The words just sat there. I felt my hands clench, then forced them to relax. The last of the book buyers were walking down the block, chatting, not noticing us. My mother looked smaller than usual, standing there with her purse clutched against her side. She glanced at me, then away. She started picking at the edge of her sleeve with her thumb. I watched her for a moment. The quiet stretched. I could hear my own breathing. When she finally looked up, her face was blank, but her jaw was set. I saw the same stubbornness I remembered from when I was a kid, and she'd tell me not to cry in public. I waited for her to say something else. She shifted her weight, looked at the door behind me. She wanted to go back inside and pretend nothing happened, or maybe just leave altogether. I didn't move. She tried to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. You know how people are, she said, almost too soft to hear. I stared at her. She stared back for a second, then brushed past me. Her perfume lingered for a moment after she was gone, mixed with something sharp, maybe the leather of her purse or the ink from the book. I watched her walk down the street, shoulders stiff, head down. She didn't look back. I stayed there, watching the spot where she'd stood, feeling the cold settle back in. The hotel lounge was almost empty except for the three of them. I could see my mother from the entryway, her back straight, her hands folded on the table in that way she always did when she wanted to look composed. Two women sat with her, one I recognized from church, the other from the grocery store, both from our town. I paused by a large potted plant and pretended to scroll through my phone, waiting for my drink. I kept my head down and listened. My mother's voice carried clear, just a hint too loud for the quiet space. They must have asked her about me, because I heard the familiar shift in her tone, the one she used when she was about to take credit for something. She said she was always so determined, right from the start. I never had to push her. The church woman leaned closer, shaking her head. What a gift, she said. My mother laughed. I always knew she'd do something big. She was just born that way, not like her brother. The other woman piped in. Didn't you encourage her? My mother didn't even pause. Of course. I was always her biggest supporter. I'd tell her, aim high, don't settle. She never disappointed me. I kept my eyes on the screen, opened my voice memo app, and hit record. Her words went on. How she stayed up late to quiz me, how she paid for extra lessons, how she made sure I never missed a school trip. I caught the time on my phone, 8:41 p.m. I whispered the timestamp into the memo, then slipped the phone into my pocket. None of it was true, but she sounded convincing. One of the women said, "You must be so proud." My mother made a small sound, all modesty. She is my greatest achievement. I don't know how I got so lucky. They moved on to talking about someone's husband's promotion, and I stepped back around the corner. My drink sat on the bar, sweating. I took it and sat by the window where I could still hear the low hum of their conversation, but not the details. I played the recording back with one earbud in. The words sounded rehearsed, almost like she was reading from a script. There was no hesitation. Only that slight, practiced laugh when she said, "She never disappointed me." I was sure those women believed her. They'd go back and tell others how supportive my mother was, how lucky I was to have her. I deleted the first recording and made a new one, this time just my own voice. I described the scene for myself. My mother in a blue blouse, hands folded, talking about me as if I were a trophy. I said the names of the women, what they were drinking, the exact words my mother had used. I ended it with 8:45 Thursday night, Hotel Lounge. I told myself I needed to remember it later, exactly as it happened. I finished my drink and went to the elevator. In the mirror, I looked the same as always. There was nothing on my face to show what I'd heard. No one would ever know if I didn't tell them. I didn't want him to hear her voice like that, so sure and so false. When I got to my room, I saved the memo to a locked folder. Downstairs, their laughter rose again, and I could hear my mother's voice above the rest. I lay on the bed, phone beside me, and closed my eyes. The recording looped through my mind, her words slotting into place with all the other things she'd said in public, all the stories she'd shaped to make herself look like the perfect mother. I wondered how many people believed it. I wondered if she believed it herself. I went down to the front desk after breakfast, holding my badge with the conference logo. I told the organizer I needed a copy of the attendee list for networking. She glanced at my badge, typed something, and printed off the names. I said thanks and folded it into my bag, my hands already shaking a little. Back upstairs, I spread the list out on the bed and ran my finger down every name. I looked for my mother's, in case she registered under her maiden name or a middle name. I checked twice, then again. She wasn't there. She had followed me to this conference. She had insisted on coming, told me she wanted to see what I do, maybe even sit in on a session. But she never showed her name at registration. I thought about the way she kept her purse close during meals, how she never left it at the table, even for coffee refills. I had seen her slip something into the inside pocket when we checked in, but I hadn't said anything. That morning, she came down late for breakfast. She was wearing her usual conference clothes, a navy blazer and pants that never quite fit right, like she borrowed them from a neighbor. She kept her purse slung over her chair and only left it when she went to get another croissant. I waited until she was at the buffet, facing away, and then I reached over and lifted the flap. My hands were steady. I didn't think about what I might find. Inside, tucked under her wallet, there was a lanyard with a name tag attached. The name wasn't hers. I didn't recognize it, but the last name was the same as a woman in the session next to mine yesterday. I pulled my phone out and snapped a picture, making sure the name and the conference logo were visible. I slid everything back the way I found it before she turned around. She came back with 2 plates, acting like nothing was wrong. She asked if I wanted more coffee. I said no. She smiled and started talking about the keynote speaker that afternoon. I watched her pour cream into her cup, stirring slowly, her eyes on the spoon. I wondered if she had worn that other woman's badge all day yesterday, walking around introducing herself as someone else. I wondered what she said when people asked who she was. I didn't ask her about the badge. I just nodded along while she talked, letting her fill the silence. The photo was in my phone now, proof I couldn't ignore. She didn't come here to support me. She came to get something for herself. She came to be seen, to use my access, and maybe claim some of my work as her own. I felt something shift, like the last piece falling into place. The stories she told about me at church, the way she'd introduced herself to my professors, the cards she sent to my boss with my name spelled wrong. It all fit. She didn't want to help. She wanted to be me. I finished my toast and excused myself, saying I needed to check my slides for the afternoon panel. She said she'd see me at lunch and handed me a napkin with a lipstick print on it, like she used to do when I was a kid. I took it and walked out. Back in my room, I opened the photo and stared at it. The name tag was cheap plastic, the font slightly faded, but the lie was clean and sharp. I saved the photo to a private folder. The decision was already made, somewhere deep in me. I wasn't angry. I wasn't surprised anymore. I just knew what I had to do next. I came home late on a Tuesday. The house was quiet, except for the faint sound of the washing machine running in the basement. My mother was staying with me for the week. She said she needed a break from her own house, though I knew she liked to remind me of her presence, checking the fridge, folding towels, straightening things that didn't need fixing. Her handbag was on the kitchen table, the contents spilling out over a half-read magazine. I started clearing up. Her phone buzzed, lighting up with a message from someone named Lydia Bridge Club. I put it aside and reached for the magazine. Underneath it was a folded packet of papers, thick and glossy. I picked it up, not thinking anything about it. On the cover, celebrating our community spring events calendar. There was a list of speakers for upcoming weeks at the local high school. I saw my old school's logo. My eyes drifted down the page. May 11th special guest, Marion Porter raising a leader. Underneath was a short description. Marion Porter shares her journey raising a daughter who has become a national figure in business and leadership. Lessons in resilience, vision, and motherhood. I stood there, reading the words again. My mother hadn't said anything about this. I flipped to the next page. There was a headshot of her, one of the professional photos I'd paid for last year, the one she'd insisted she didn't want. The blurb below the photo talked about her unwavering support, guidance, and example. I heard her coming up the basement stairs. I folded the flyer and slipped it into my phone's camera frame, snapping a quick photo before she entered the kitchen. She saw me holding her bag. "You need something?" she asked, her tone light. I shook my head. "Just cleaning up." She wiped her hands on a tea towel and glanced at the magazine. "Oh, that. Lydia asked me to pick up some programs from the club," she said. I nodded. She didn't mention the talk. I made tea. She sat at the table, scrolling her phone. I could feel the words pressing at my throat, but I didn't say anything. The kitchen felt smaller, somehow. I looked at the photograph again on my phone. She was scheduled to give her talk next Thursday. She hadn't asked if I would go. She hadn't even told me she was doing it. She started humming. I watched her tapping out a reply to someone. I wondered how many people she'd told already. I remembered last month when she'd brought me a plate of cookies for your office friends and lingered while my assistant gushed about the smell. Or how she'd posted a photo of my new office door on Facebook, adding, "So proud of my girl, hard work pays off." I looked at her across the table. She was smiling at her phone, probably replying to Lydia. She looked pleased. There was a new lightness to her, some secret validation she didn't think I knew about. I finished my tea. She asked if I wanted to watch the news. I said I was tired from work. She said, "Of course, you're always working." As I walked upstairs, I heard her voice drifting up the hall. She was on the phone, her public voice cheerful and practiced. "Yes, next week." "I'm honored," she was saying. "My daughter, oh, she's always been driven. She gets that from me, I suppose." I closed my bedroom door and sat on the bed. I scrolled through the pictures I'd just taken. The flyer, her photo, the words about her guidance. I thought about how many times I'd asked her for advice and heard only stories about what she would have done, not what I should do. I pictured her standing at the front of that high school auditorium, telling people how she'd raised a leader. I turned off my phone and lay back, staring at the ceiling. I felt something shift. She wasn't just living in my house, she was living off my story. And she was about to make it public. I listened to the muffled sound of her laughter downstairs. It didn't sound like my mother at all. I stared at the hotel TV, soundless, some reality show flickering. My laptop glowed on the desk. I sat in the stiff chair, legs pulled up, and opened a new email draft. The school's principal had a generic address, easy to find on their website. I typed her name twice, deleted, then started again. My fingers shook at first. It wasn't anger or nerves, just a kind of cold focus. I uploaded the photos. The first was the permission form, my signature circled. The second, Claire's lanyard from the kitchen table, laid out beside my own. The third, the conference badge list on my phone, with her name written in marker. I arranged them in order, then stared at the blank body of the email. I kept it simple. I wrote, "I'm concerned about a misrepresentation of my story and credentials at your upcoming event." I included the details. Claire has been listed as a speaker for your Women in Science Day. She is using my name and biography. I have never given permission for this. Please see the attached documentation. I left it at that. No threats, no demands. I signed with my full name, work title, and phone number. I read it 3 times, each pass shorter. I thought about deleting it all. I imagined Claire standing in front of the auditorium, telling my story, saying the lines I'd written in my application months ago. The audience clapping. The local news, maybe. I closed my eyes. I hit schedule send, set for 7:00 the next morning. The hotel Wi-Fi flickered for a second, then confirmed. The room went quiet after that. I closed the laptop, pushed it away. My phone buzzed with a text from my husband. "Call me if you want." He added a photo of our cat on the couch. I didn't reply. My mind kept running through the details. I tried to remember if there was anything I'd missed. Would they believe me? Would Claire deny it? I didn't know what would happen next. I brushed my teeth with the hotel toothbrush, tasted the cheap mint. My face looked flat in the bathroom mirror, skin pale from the overhead light. I picked up my phone again, scrolled through old photos, none of Claire. Dee never taken selfies together, not once in all these years. I lay on the bed, the covers still made, and waited for sleep. A siren went by outside. I listened to the pipes in the wall. I watched the clock change, minute by minute. At one point, I thought about calling the principal instead, hearing her voice, but I couldn't stand the idea of explaining it all out loud. The evidence was there. It would have to be enough. My phone buzzed again, An email from Claire. Just checking in. Hope the hotel's okay. Let me know if you need anything for tomorrow. I stared at the screen. I didn't write back. I wondered if she felt anything. Anxiety, guilt, excitement. Or if she had already convinced herself it was harmless. A chance for us both. No real harm done. I set my alarm for 6:45, closed my eyes and waited. The hotel room was too cold. I pulled the blanket to my chin and listened to the hallway, footsteps coming and going. I tried to picture what would happen when the principal opened the email. Would she call Claire first? Would she call me? Would she just delete it? I felt the muscles in my neck tense, then relax. I didn't sleep much. At some point, I got up for water, the tap running too hot, then too cold. I sat on the edge of the bed, hands folded, watching the window lighten. I thought about the next day, about what I would say to Claire if she called me out. I rehearsed it silently until the alarm went off. She didn't knock. The door crashed against the wall and she stood there, her hair wild, her phone clutched so tight her knuckles looked white. I was sitting on the bed in sweatpants, laptop open, half a cup of cold coffee on the nightstand. I didn't move. She slammed the door shut behind her. How could you embarrass me like this? She hissed. She threw her phone onto the bed, screen up, so I could see the email from the school. The subject line was clear: invitation withdrawn. I didn't say anything for a second. She started pacing, making short, sharp turns at the end of the little carpet. You have no idea what you've done, she said. They're all calling me. You know how important this was to me. I looked at her. She stopped moving. She stared at me, mouth open a little. I never did anything to hurt you, she said. I just wanted them to be proud. I wanted them to see what you've done. You never say anything. You never show anyone. I thought her voice broke off. I reached for my phone. I pulled up the photo. It was the one of the library book, the inside cover, my mother's handwriting in blue pen. To my darling daughter, always #1. I turned the screen toward her. Why would you do this? I said. Why write that? That wasn't there last year. You forged it. You told the committee I'd written it myself. You said I donated that book in your honor. She opened her mouth. Shut it. Looked at the wall. The air was heavy. She said, I just wanted to help. You wanted them to see you, I said. You wanted to be part of it, but you never were. You always said I was too quiet. Now you're using my silence. I looked down at the screen, then back at her. I could hear her breathing. She sat on the other bed, the one she'd claimed as hers. She picked at the bedspread. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. Her voice faded for a second. You never tell anyone what you do. You never take credit. I thought if I made it a bit more about family, they'd care more. They'd remember us. I watched her. I waited. She didn't look at me. You told them I owed everything to you, I said. You sent them that letter. You put your name on things you never touched. She flinched. She said, You're my daughter. It's all the same. Isn't it? No, I said. She stood up. She started to cry, but she wiped her face fast and angry with the back of her hand. You never understand what it's like, she said. You think you're so clever, sitting there, letting people ignore you. I did all this for you. I shook my head. You did it for yourself. She stared at me. Her face was red, blotchy. She grabbed her purse from the floor. I hope you're happy, she said. I hope this makes you feel good. She left. The door didn't slam, this time. It clicked shut, quiet. I sat back against the pillow. I looked at her phone, still on the bed, the screen gone dark. I didn't touch it. I listened to the elevator doors at the end of the hall, heard them open and close. The room felt bigger without her there. I got up and locked the door. I sat at the edge of the conference atrium, legs crossed, badge lanyard itching at my neck. My phone buzzed on the table. First, a message from my cousin. What's going on with Aunt Marion? She's fuming. I watched the little typing bubble flicker, then disappear. I set the phone face down. People filtered back in from lunch, voices louder than before. A few glanced over, then pretended not to. I looked at the half-eaten sandwich on my plate. Mayo congealed at the edges. A woman I'd seen in the morning session, navy blazer, sensible shoes, stopped by my table. She hesitated, then leaned in. Everything all right? Was that your mom? We saw her leave. I nodded. She wasn't supposed to be here, I said. She blinked, face scrunching a little. Oh. Well, she seemed upset. I picked up my coffee, pretending to study the rim. She gets like that, I said. The woman hovered another second, then retreated. My phone buzzed again. My cousin, what happened? She's calling everyone. I didn't answer. Instead, I scrolled through the missed calls. 4 from Mom. 1 from Uncle Peter. I deleted them all without listening. 2 men from accounting drifted over. One of them, Mark, tapped the back of a chair. Saw your mom storm out. Is everything okay? I shrugged, still staring at my phone. Family, I said. He nodded, said nothing else, just moved away. People kept glancing, then whispering. Someone from the events team came over. Is your guest all right? She left before her lunch was served. I kept my tone level. She wasn't invited. The woman's eyes widened, but she just smoothed her skirt and walked off. My hands shook a little, so I pressed them to my lap. I watched people file back to their seats. Laughter, forks scraping plates, someone tapping a glass for attention. The world kept moving. I chewed another bite of my sandwich, not tasting it. The conference organizer caught my eye from across the room, gave a small, questioning wave. I smiled, waved back, then looked away. My phone buzzed twice more, cousin again, then a message from my brother. Mom's calling me nonstop. What did you do? I typed. Nothing she didn't earn. Then I deleted it and put the phone in my bag. I heard my name from the podium. Someone calling me up for the next panel. I wiped my hands on a napkin, stood up, and smoothed my skirt. As I walked to the stage, I felt eyes on me, but no one said a word. The room was silent, except for the sound of my shoes on the carpet. I sat at the panel table, adjusted the microphone. The moderator smiled, oblivious. I nodded, lips pressed tight. My phone vibrated in my bag. I let it ring. The newspaper came out on a Thursday morning. I saw the headline before I even left for work. It was just a small piece, not even above the fold. Parent talk canceled, miscommunication over credentials. There was a 1-paragraph summary. The article didn't mention my mother's name, but the description was clear enough for anyone who knew the school. It said the speaker had withdrawn after questions about her experience and background went unanswered. The tone was matter of fact. There were no accusations, just the fact that the event wouldn't happen and that organizers regretted the confusion. I read the article twice at my kitchen counter. The coffee went cold. I could picture how she'd react, checking her phone, reading it, calling her friends. I didn't have to imagine the rest. By noon, the group chats were active. Laura, one of the Bridge Club women, sent me a text meant for someone else. It said, I guess it's true then. No one replied. Later, my aunt called and started to ask about the mix-up, but then changed the subject to her new cat. No one wanted to say what they were thinking, but it was all over town. My mother left me a voicemail in the afternoon. The tone was sharp, but tired. You think you're better than us now, is that it? You think you can just do this, embarrass me? Fine. I hope you're happy. There was a pause, just her breathing, struggling for the next words. I saved the audio. I didn't call her back. That evening, I checked the Bridge Club's website. Her name had been on the list of speakers for the next month. Raising Resilient Kids, a Mother's Perspective. Now it was gone, replaced by TBA. I scrolled through the club's Facebook page. There were no comments, just a silent deletion. I knew she'd notice right away. She'd probably call Laura, then Marlene, then the club president. I knew that pattern. I sat on the couch and listened to her voicemail again. The words were familiar, like something she'd said before when she didn't get her way. But this time, there was nothing else. No apology, no bargaining. Only accusation and silence. It felt final. My brother texted me that night. He said, "Mom's in a mood." I said, "I know." He didn't ask for details. He never does. The next day, she didn't call. No one from her circle reached out. I went to work, made dinner, cleaned the kitchen. It was quiet in my apartment. I kept waiting for another call, or a message, or something, some sign she was going to fight back. But there was nothing. On Saturday, I saw her at the grocery store. She was at the bakery counter, looking at the display. She didn't see me. I watched her for a minute. She straightened her collar, looked around, and then left without buying anything. Her walk was stiff. I stayed behind the bread aisle until she was gone. I didn't feel relief or pride. Just a dull ache, like something had ended quietly. That night, I deleted her voicemail from my phone, then changed my mind and restored it. I saved it in a folder I never open. The house was silent. I turned off my phone and went to bed early. She didn't call again. Her story was over, but it echoed in the silence. I woke up early the morning after the closing dinner. I'd slept better than I expected, though my phone was buzzing with unread messages from colleagues. Some were congratulations. A few asked bluntly if I was going to write about what happened for the alumni magazine. I ignored them. I packed my bag, folded the navy dress I'd worn the night before, and zipped my suitcase. On the desk, the book sat where I'd left it, my own battered copy of that collection of essays on women's voices, the one my mother used to quote when I was a teenager. I put it in my purse, not quite sure why. I checked out at the front desk around 8. The lobby was quiet. There was a family with small children waiting for a taxi, and the clerk asked if I'd enjoyed my stay. I said yes, thanked her, and walked out to the street. The city was waking up. Delivery trucks, a jogger, trash cans being rolled to the curb. I pulled my coat tighter. I waited for my car, scrolling through my inbox. No new messages from my mother. She had called once after the conference last night. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't try again. The car ride to the train station was quiet. The driver had the radio on, some talk show about local elections. I stared out the window. My hands felt steady. I kept thinking about what my mother would say if she knew how the panel had ended, the way the audience had started clapping when I finished. I pictured her in her kitchen, phone resting on the counter, waiting for me to call back. She never did twice. The train station was crowded. I found a seat by the window and took out my phone. I opened the donation page for my old high school library. I hesitated before typing my name. The form asked if I wanted the gift to be made in honor of anyone. I wrote, "For student self-advocacy and resilience resources. Please use for new book purchases and workshops." No dedication. I included a note, "Please do not attach any family names. If possible, prioritize materials for students who feel unheard or isolated." It wasn't a big amount. Enough for a shelf or two of books, maybe a speaker. I submitted the form and closed the page. My train was delayed. I sat there, watching people come and go. I kept the book in my lap, running my thumb over the creased cover. I thought about the library at my high school. I remembered sitting at a back table, reading alone, while my mother volunteered at the front desk or talked to my teachers about leadership potential. She always said I'd thank her for pushing me. I never did. I wondered if any of the students there now would find the right book at the right time, or if they'd notice at all. The train finally arrived. I found my seat and settled in, watching the city blur past. My phone stayed silent. I didn't check it again. The panel was over. The audience was gone. My mother's name wouldn't be linked to anything this time. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and listened to the wheels on the tracks. I felt the distance growing behind me. Hotel, conference, stage, applause, silence. I let it. I moved back into my apartment the next. It was still full of boxes from when I'd planned to help my mother after her surgery, but I unpacked them slowly, piece by piece, without urgency. I changed my emergency contact in the HR system at work to my friend Marion. It felt mechanical, but necessary. My phone filled up with messages from relatives and a few of my mother's friends, but I didn't answer. I didn't block anyone, either. The silence was enough. At work, people stopped tiptoeing around me. I noticed they spoke to me directly, not through her, and nobody asked about my weekends anymore. My projects moved forward. I got an invitation to join a mentorship panel, then another for a conference. I said yes to both. Nobody called my mother to check if I was available, or if it was too much for me. The messages came to me, and I answered them. I didn't go back to our old house. My mother sent a few short texts. Do you need anything? Are you all right? But I let them sit. There wasn't anything left to say. I went to dinner with friends and listened while they talked about their own parents, their own small betrayals. I told them I was busy with work, which was true. The apartment stayed quiet. I started sleeping better, and when I woke up, I didn't check my phone right away. I'd thought losing her would feel like losing part of myself, but it was different. The space was just mine now. I locked the door and made coffee in the morning, alone. My name was the only one on the mailbox. 3 months later, my mornings are quieter. I still wake up early, but I don't check my phone for messages from her anymore. The apartment is filled with small new routines. I keep the windows open. I water the plants before work. There's a note on my desk now, a folded card with the school's crest and a short sentence from the principal. She wrote, "Thank you for sharing your story. You inspired more students than you know." I read it once, then again, and then I put it in a frame. It sits next to the signed copy of my book. The first time I saw them side by side, I thought about the years I spent trying to explain myself to people who didn't want to understand. I only kept the card because it felt solid, and I wanted to remember that day. My mother hasn't called since the last exchange. I didn't expect her to. At first, the silence felt unfinished, like something might break open if I waited long enough. Now, it's a kind of quiet I can breathe in. My life is not empty. I see friends for coffee. I read in the park. Sometimes the story comes up when people ask me about the book, and I tell it the same way every time. Short sentences, nothing extra. The world is smaller without the constant noise. It's not better or worse. It's just mine. I keep the framed note where I can see it, in case I forget how far silence can carry a person. My mother built her reputation on the lie that she saved our family business, when I was the one who kept it from falling apart behind the scenes. When I finally exposed what she'd done, everything changed. So now I'm asking, would you have done it, or just let her go on pretending for the sake of peace? If you've ever been in a position where telling the truth meant betraying someone close to you, I want to hear how you handled it. Did you keep quiet, or did you speak up? Let me know what you think in the comments. I read all of them, and I'm honestly curious how other people see this. If my story made you think, or you want to hear more stories like it, you can subscribe or like, whatever works for you. And if you know someone who's dealing with something similar, maybe share this with them. Sometimes it helps to see you're not the only one. So, what's the right thing to do when family loyalty and honesty collide? I'm still not sure. Tell me what you would have done.